Welcome to the Condor DM Show. Tonight, I'm covering Ars Magica, a very challenging game to explain, but I will. A very unique game, so unique that it inspired some of what you see in the world of darkness. I'll say this there's a bit of inspiration from Ruin Quest, but it's a very different tabletop role playing game. Very different. Ars Magica is a very different kind of tabletop role playing game. I would say, it's not to turn people off, but it's not for everyone. But for those who can get into it, it can be a fabulous, very creative game. Very creative. Very creative. Ars Magica. Oh my. It's been decades since I ran Ars Magica, and putting together tonight's stream, I definitely had to. It's like going over a formula again. You got to remind yourself about how all this works, man. It took me a bit to really grasp it when I first went to run Ars Magica. I learned with first edition, but I did run second edition. I ran both, to be real. Tonight, I am going to focus on second edition. A lot more people that know the old school Ars Magica know more about second edition than they do first edition. So for that reason, I'm going to focus a lot on second edition Ars Magica. I wouldn't say there's anything like spoilers. I mean, it's a game. What's going to happen when you're going to play the game? That's always going to be new to you. But I'm going to teach you Ars Magica, baby. Ars Magica. Whew. I'll say this. You don't have to understand Latin, but there are some Latin words used in Ars Magica casting system. Man, it is such a different game. It is not what you expect. It is not your adventuring tabletop role-playing game. It's not your mission-based tabletop role-playing game. Man, it is something. You have to be very patient. You have to be into what they're doing. It's a very unique system. Like I say, it's not... I'd say this with Ars Magica. I don't want people to be turned off. I think it's very creative and interesting. And some of the ideas definitely carried on from the original old stuff, right? They even have new Ars Magica around today, so that's crazy. Hey, Toddy G. Hey, what's up, my friend? Yes, covering Ars Magica there, Toddy G. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if you're into Ars Magica, but it's not your typical game. It's not your typical tabletop role-playing game. It's one where if you can enjoy, I don't know, sort of a slower progression, and it's a more of like a time jumping game. There's a lot of seasonal play. That's really where you're going to improve your character. I mean, there's a bit of combat in it. It's not a big focus of the game. It's very dangerous in the area of any type of violence. Yeah. It's a game where you're either if you're rolling against other people, or even say a non-player character, I guess you want to say it that way, you're rolling against each other's dice rolls to a degree. There's many forms of defense. Illuminati card game. Good evening, my hearties, bought semi-crappy bear. Oh, crappy bear is at least still bear, my friend. At least still bear. Oh, Ars Magica Black Rose. If you don't know what it is, it's going to be an interesting thing to learn about. This is actually interesting because it's so different from most other tabletop role-playing games. And the guys that worked on things like World of Darkness sort of start here. Some of this, not all of it, carries over. But the gameplay is very unique. It's a grindy game in a certain way, right? It comes at Magic in a very unique way. It's not about a spell list. It's about your creativity with understanding how the system works, how the magic works. Like they say you could try anything. Well, that's true. You could try just about anything in Ars Magica. It comes down to, I'll make it simple. It's like it has these things called arts, and within the arts, you can try any formula you want to try. Though it depends on how good your guy is in certain areas, will depend on what you can achieve, right? Auction convention a few years back. I know what it is, but semi crappy on the details. Oh man, see, I ran it. So you got to understand it. It's a lot of the initial words are in Latin, but they have their English meanings. It's not hard to understand some of the ideas behind these things because it's not like you don't get it like a spell list. You get words that mean something, and you can put something together with these art forms and try anything. But if you're not so good at one area, there's a lot of potential failure. So you could try anything, but I mean, it's like how you only have so many points to spend when you first start, through character creation, and you can improve that over time. But it's what have you done? Like, what have you improved on? And regular books are a way of improving those scores, improving what your character knows. So it's like you could get all these different arts. Like, it's almost, think about like every wizard knows everything, or every magus, every magic user knows every art there is. But say you spent no points on a certain piece of that art, but you want to cast something related to it. You can try, but it's likely in many cases you'll fail. And if it becomes more difficult because you want to try something harder, it becomes even harder to roll and achieve that. But there's a dice roll. You'll get a dice roll. You can try anything. The better off you are, like the more points you spend on something, the easier the dice roll becomes. So then you can try that thing and more likely have a chance of achieving it. Right? And nothing is ever really overly direct. All these words have different meanings. It'd be like if a bridge went down and you'd be like, well, can I fix the bridge? You'd be like, it's not that easy. Can you stop the river? Can you control the water? Can you bring up earth and rocks to put something, form something together? Could you drop a log down between these two things, right? But can you just simply do something? It's not always that, though. As you come up with techniques and you want to advance them to become something like a spell, you can do that in what they call the lab. You're the place where you're going to go work out all your stuff and improve yourself over what they call seasons, over long periods of time. The game is really not about adventuring. So it's not, I don't want to say too much, because if I say too much, I'll start giving the game away, right? It's not hard, extremely hard to understand, right? It's not like impossible, but it's meant to be somewhat difficult. But it's once you get it, what you're going to realize is, man, you can try anything. You can try anything, even the difficult stuff. At the very least, you can try it, right? But yeah, it's all these different areas of understanding casting is called arts. And it's just like, think about, like, you don't really have skills. Like every magus or every magic user knows this stuff from the get-go. It's just that the worse off you are in one art area, when you start trying to do stuff related to that, it can be very hard to achieve. So that's really important. I didn't even know that word off the top of my head. No. It's like, there's some details people will catch me on. They'll ask me a word about a certain game I might even know, but it's like you hit me with a certain word, I start getting confused. I haven't ran certain games I've covered in like years, and people be like, I seen one guy ask me a question, I forget what it was, but it was about Cyberpunk. It was afterwards. And he asked me a question, and I totally forgot this because I'm going off the top of my head with most of this stuff. And I was like, no, I don't remember that part. And he's like, oh, there, I got you. That means you didn't run the game. You didn't do anything. You just said, yes, I did do. Oh, hey, no. It means you did AI. So you don't know anything. You're full. Dude, I just forgot that detail. Am I not allowed to be human? So I've seen some guys try to pull that. It's like, dude, did you listen to my explanations in between all the things? Like stuff only a game master would really know about this stuff. Like, Oh, it's a shame. No, I don't. I don't know that the first word that you're talking about there right off the top of my head. I might even know a game related to it, but I don't know. I'm not looking this up in the middle of a live stream. If you say that could be somewhere found in Ars Magica, I would have known Ars Magica has all kinds of weird language stuff. That's it. You can't. It's like asking. It's like imagine you did this to a D&D guy, like to a DM. He's talking to you, and you're like, "Do you know this spell?" Oh, because DMs can't memorize everything about a spell list or every word in a book. Man, it's just imagine if you put that standard on some DM for D&D. You could both, oh, you don't know that spell? You don't know D&D. You lied. You haven't ran anything. Dude, the guy has probably ran something. He's probably not for remember that detail. Though you are asking some weird questions there, Toddy G. What are you, some type of fucking troll? Okay. German game. Well, probably not then. It's something very specific to another nation. I probably don't know it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It has to be something usually produced here that I'm going to know about. I don't know. I'm not good on history. There's another guy I had on that might even know what you're talking about. Because he's a bit of a story when it comes to actually tabletop role playing games. I had him here on purpose for that reason. AJ Pickett. I could ask him about that. He might actually know something because he's a bit of a historian, more to D&D, I think, when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, really knows his stuff. But the guy really likes to know a bit about his history. There's some strange ones out there wanting to prove anyone else than themselves wrong. Late response was always there are some people out there that put a standard on you. And it's weird. It depends on who you are. Like if you said something they disagree with, standards up here. Go to a guy that they agree with, this is where the bias comes in. And suddenly, that guy, oh, he's cool. And they'll even be reasonable with him. Well, he doesn't remember, so that's probably all that is. I let people roll for so long in their Toddy G. If they give themselves away, they go away. I don't have patience for it. I don't have patience for it at all. So, can I read the room all the time? No. Some people are just fucking nerds and antisocial and weird in the tabletop role playing game hobby. So I don't assume anything weird coming at me is always trolling or somebody in bad faith when they come here saying something odd, man. But if you just go ahead and give yourself, make it too obvious, and you'll say goodbye. It's like that's it. No, it's all right, but it's just I understand. I get a lot of we usually call it the witching hour. Me and Black Rose would call it. We get a lot of trolls that come here because I say, I don't know, Toddy G. If you've been following my content, you know I say some really challenging things to people you know that where the majority have a certain opinion, and I'll say something pretty solid that it pisses them off. And then again, that's that I have to watch in who's fucking around because so many of them fuck around me. So I'm like, it's okay to fuck around. I have no issue, but it's like they'll come and they'll start pushing, like they say, a slight troll and then give themselves away. Or they'll come here putting a standard on me that is just ridiculous, where it's like they go listen to another YouTuber who says what they want to hear, plays yes man, says exactly what they agree with. Suddenly, all the issues with him that they would apply to me is not an issue. They're completely fine. Oh, they're open-minded to him. It's completely okay. Don't care what his background. He's fine. Oh, Steven says something I disagree with. Oh, let me put a standard up here on this guy and have a biased mindset against him. I never know who's fucking with me, but if it's not you, we're good. We're good. I don't care if you're a nerd. I like unique personalities. I do. So if that's just you're a little bit out there, we're good. We'll get along. are bound to crop up. We just got to give each other some goodwill. So, well, that's what I'm talking about here. That's why I say it's like I'll let somebody go a little far, even if it seems a little off to me. I don't just assume. That's why I say just don't give. I even tell people that are fucking around. You could, to a degree, you can fuck around. To a degree, I'm actually fine. I don't mind a little bit of fun trolling. I could take a few pokes, but if it gets to the point where that's all you're doing, and that's time to go, my friend. I'm here for intelligent conversations. It's some YouTubers out there. They'll go for clapping seals because they need an audience praising them to think they're somebody good, right? I'm not that. I don't need people to blow smoke up my ass, as Black Rose will know. So I could be a very picky type of person, even when it comes to the audience. So I don't need the clapping seals. I don't need the extra likes. I don't need all that. I think I'm great. I have value before I get here. So I don't give a shit. It's what you call meeting someone who's really confident, Toddy. People that have fake confidence are the people that got to go say what people want to hear so they can get all the likes. And if they don't get them, even worse, go watch some of these guys when they don't get the reaction. Do I suck? Are my opinions not good? Is there something wrong with me? It's, the second they don't get a response, you actually hear them say stuff like this about themselves. I'm just like, dude, have a bit more confidence before you get here. Don't require people to blow smoke up your ass to think you're somebody. And even when the audience comes by and judges, I'll say something very strong because I've been in the hobby for a long time. I know a lot of shit. Somebody will say something foolish like this to me. How can you say that? I remember when I say hitting like 400 people or 500 people following me, I disagree with the guy with the bigger account. And they'd be like, how dare you speak that way when you only have 400 people following me? I'll be like, well, look, I could have minus 10 people following me and I'll say the same fucking thing. Suck my ass, bitch. And I'll say it with just as much credibility. Oh, well, how can you? Do you think you're going to be taken serious? Well, if an intelligent person listens to me, I'm sure they will. If a fucking numbskull fucking moron comes by and judges how things are said based on some numbers, maybe they won't take me serious. Though those people can suck my ass anyway. I don't care. Nothing too serious. I admit I'm too soft on others, and Steven's quite stern, but we always see eye to eye at the end of it. Yeah, that's the thing. It's sort of funny. Black Rose, AJ Pickett, I had on here. Very neutral, reasonable, nice guys, right? I can be a bit more shark. I'm the whoop. They're the reasonable ones. But I'm happy to get really intelligent guys here. As far as German games go, if you're being all serious about that, no, I haven't heard about unique games. Hey, what's up, Sag? Welcome to the show, my friend. Ars Magica is going to be very fucking interesting. I promise you that. Won't be boring because it's not typical. It's like you could look at Game Busters. You could even look at, like, say, Bushido. You could look at Top Secret. And all of them are sort of active games on the go with your characters doing things pretty active, sort of like mission-based, adventure, stuff like this. Where when you get over to Ars Magica, it's a slower game. It's way less, like, pretty much you're not really doing the adventuring thing or the same old missions. It's very vague on what you do outside of your studies and trying things. And when you try things, it's like you're slowly moving through the world. And when you encounter something, here's an issue, right? And there's a lot of power to be played with. So there's a lot of balancing in there. There's a lot of ways to defend to get things. Magic is quite strong. Well, I appreciate Toddy G. You're welcome to stay here and enjoy the show, my friend. You can talk as much as you want, right? I hope even, hey, if you're someone who brings some knowledge with some German games here that we haven't heard of or want to mention them, I'm willing to look into that shit, dude. Very open-minded. Very fucking open-minded, right? Especially if they relate with what we're talking about here, you can always mention them. It's all welcome, baby. Hey, I'm all right, thanks. Not sure how long I'll be around. Might be called out later. I don't know. Hey, Black Rose. Say, even if you don't get to watch it all, this one would be a good one to come back and skim over. Just skim over. Just hear about some of the fucking magic. I don't want to keep talking about it because it is a weird part of the game. but it's beyond these certain points. There's not a lot. I mean, it for a lot of people, they'll say it's quite a difficult game. But I'm like, yeah, but if it gets beyond these certain points, there's not a bunch else to the game, to be real with you. So I don't want to give it all away in one try. It's very interesting. I like it because it's very creative. You got to get the right players that are going to think in this creative way, because you got to get people that think outside the box. This is a game where it's less about the game. Once you understand it's a game master, it's not hard. Ars Magic is actually quite easy to run, to be honest. It's more challenging on the players. So a lot of games, like Bushido, would be more learn it as you go type of game, right? And all games are like that, even this game. But still, it's a lot easier for you to gradually learn through mistakes, starting over. D&D could be the same thing. You might be losing characters early on, but you're going to learn. Don't be careless when you go around the corner because there's a fucking gelatinous cube, right? This game is a little out there for learning. It's like I tried this, it failed. Well, it's almost easy to understand, but it becomes more about experimentation. And it's not like the experiments get easier the next go around, other than what you might want to try. But every time you think you got something covered in Ars Magica, there's other things you'll want to do. And so it really comes down to how you spend your points. Don't think of like the idea that you'll even be making different. It's not even like a party game where there's like a group of characters. One does this, one does this. In a way, you could do that. But in a way, you just, depending on how you spend your points, well, the difference between the characters, right? Oh, man. The magic is unique. It is the specialty about this game. Everything is sort of built around how magic is used. Again, if I keep talking about it, I'll just give away most of the stream. Drive-through misses work in a few hours, but I thought I'd join and stay as long as I can. What I'll do is in 25 minutes, I'll start. So what I will power through as much as I can there. Black Rose, get really the basics out of the way. I mean, I'm sure through I'm sure I might be able to get through it all. Time for you to actually watch it. I hope. We'll see. There's a lot there, baby. There's a lot there. But in a way, it's more about explaining stuff, because this game is less about how much is there and more about understanding what is there. And it's understanding things. So there's a lot of wisdom, certain mechanics. Mechanics are important. It comes to like rolling dice. You're rolling like a D10. And there's like a re-rolling format. If you roll like ones and zeros, one's like a re-roll for certain things. Zero's like a re-rolling effect that can lead you to dangerous things happening. Like zero is your, oh shit, didn't mean for that to happen. Between 2 and 9 is normal, where you can either fail or succeed, but nothing happens. If you roll a 1, or they say 0, 10, we would count on the D10. These weird things can happen. 0 could be something bad. 1 could just be something where it's a repeat roll. Could even be really good under those circumstances. Oh, I know. Life can get in the way. Ars Magica, baby. Ars Magica. I heard somebody, I was talking to someone recent who is actually getting a newer edition of the game. So I don't want to claim that this is going to represent the new edition. I don't know. All I know is I ran mostly first edition, but I ran some of second edition. But most people I've talked to know more about second edition. I know enough about it, so I'm like, okay, that's what we'll focus on mainly, right? Think of it like this. It doesn't have its own setting in the way some other games have settings, but it definitely has, it's sort of like a supernatural version of what we have, and then it's a way it deals with it. Yeah, it's, as long as you can understand that, I would first say this, Black Rose. Here's my take on it. The game is not for everyone. It's not for everyone. You ever meet those players in your game that like to start a business and do business stuff, and they like that sort of side of D&D, for example, right? Or making magic items. like taking the time out, buying a lab, stuff like all this type of stuff. Players like that can find a game like this very appealing, right? Because there's a lot of that. But guys who are just like, I want to get into the dungeon and fight, it's just like, well, that's mostly what you're looking for with most games. Action, movement, go, go, go. This game would probably not appeal to those players. That's what I have found, right? A game where it's a lot of go. It doesn't mean it doesn't have its action. It doesn't mean it doesn't have its interesting moments. There can be very good moments, like giving you this example of the bridge going down, but you got to think of a way. How would you solve the issue of the bridge going down? Do you stop the river? Do you put a log down? Like, and how do you do that with your magic? Some things aren't simple, some things are. And the more you understand it, the more it gets simple. It's like anything. Think of this game like just like any other game. It's like you pick up like I've been playing Icarus recently. Man, when I first turned that game on, I did not watch anything to help me. I just went in and I was like, holy shit, this game is hard. Fuck. Right? Been playing it for a while now. Now I can start the game from scratch and just like breathing it. Game's not hard at all. At least the beginning part of the game. I find very fucking simple now. Though, I mean, the difficulty in understanding it when I first turned it on, Ars Magica can have that type of fuck. Even if you put things in front of players, even if you explain things, they get in and like, shit, what can I try? But then after you play Ars Magica for a bit, it's not that it makes it easier. You're still always experimenting, even if you start a new game, but it makes it easier to understand just how you go about it so you get faster. It's like you'll know quicker what you want to try. I'm going to try this, control this, and this will probably lead to this. Yes, probably. Right? And books, in most games, a normal book, see, when I say books are valuable in this game, I'm not talking about books like spell books in a D&D game. Oh, yeah. It's coming up. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. But yeah, it's in this game, when you think of like spell books in a D&D game, they're valuable. In this game, books where it's like normal writing, but about magic and understanding it become extremely, extremely valuable because the more you understand, the more you can raise those points up, right? Definitely Samology. I have several areas I'm just purposely not bringing up right away that are in the thing, and I'll hit on in detail. In detail, I promise. Some of the basics, though, these are some of the more popular things some people should have heard of by now. With it, it's not like think about the magic list, not like a spell list again. But many of the spell lists that you know from other games, a lot of spells like control fire, heal somebody, you can do these things. But it's not like a list of things. But you can sort of form a sort of magic list, but it's not like something you would put. You can write it down to a book. That information could be valuable. But what you're really doing is getting used to the type of spells that you like. So say you went and learned how to heal somebody, like through experimenting. You can advance that through just taking a season to study it. In certain areas of your arts can improve through studying these type of things. And then you can pretty much pull that off more often with benefits to the roll. It's you can do anything, but it's how well the dice roll works out for you. So you can spend no points on something and say, I'm going to try this. And I'm like, well, you could try it. But likely is the less you have focused on that, the less points you have put to that, more times than not, the dice roll will fail you when you attempt that magic. And so it's like you can do it, but it's hard to achieve a lot of certain things that you don't really put time to, or you haven't focused on with your character's abilities or points or whatever. So it's, again, don't think of it like skills, like separate skills. Think about like the art stuff is something all magic users just know. So you're always sort of like a scientist in a magic lab. And that's why the personal lab that you'll use over seasons of study is very good for making magic items and whatnot. Yeah, you develop it, but you can also it's a lot of development. Sometimes can be what you think of, and then what you're put on the spot to try, and then how much you want to further certain things. Like, so it's like, say you come up with a great idea. Well, a great idea is it can be good ideas, but it's how much have you gotten good in this area. Say like say you want to change somebody into an animal, like change somebody into a wolf, right? Well, there's the sort of requisite that you need: animal. Say you spent no points on animal for a requisite. Go to your options, because this is a popular one. I'm using a popular sort of example. Well, just basically, when you try to change someone into that thing, the chances that you can achieve it are very low. So it's again, you can come up with anything. You can come up with you all can come up with the same thing, but it's just who has spent more points on what, and then whoever has, like, say, better skills, better points, like raised up in certain areas, their dice rolls are going to succeed on these type of powers more times than not. Or if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how good your idea is if it's likely to fail every time, just about every time you roll the dice. That becomes your issue, right? So it almost becomes to a degree that it's you can know an idea, but if you spent no points on things that will end up being behind that thing, 9 times, maybe 99 times out of 100, you're going to fail when you try to dice roll that out. Savage Worlds Fast and Furious 5, 2003 edition, isn't it? I'm thrilled. Yeah, we covered me and Black Rose. We went over Savage Worlds already, which is sort of like a D&D generic thing where you can use it for a lot of things. Savage World is used for so much, if that's what you're talking about, Savage Worlds. And just to be clear, what does Sam OG mean by troop play? Just so we're very clear, I am going to cover it, but in case anybody hears like, oh, what's that? Some people should already know, but for those who don't, it's like you're just playing more than one character. It's like the idea of playing multiple characters. And it's considered like a regular thing in this game. Checking some last minute notes here. So just to let you guys know, this one that I'm going to cover tonight is mainly second edition and came out in 1989. I ran first edition probably more, to be honest, but I ran some of second edition. When I talked to some people leading up to doing this, a lot more people told me they know second edition than they do first edition. I said, okay, well, I'll come at it from that point of view. That point of view, I will. So we'll just say this. It's my last one I'm having before coverage, before I start anyway. So once this is done, no matter what time it is, I'll start. Unexpectedly, Black Rose, unexpectedly. Yeah, I found some really, really great treasures online. It amazes me how much people will tell me something cost on a quick search, and then I go search it out and I find it. Another thing is how many people oppose reading PDFs, where I'm just like, look, I'm someone who came up in the old school in a way that I just didn't have money to have a lot of hardcover books. And I'm someone who's used to roughing it out it's even when I can afford something. I'm still someone who's going to be ready to go, well, what do I got to do to learn something? I personally have no problem reading PDFs all day long. At all. They don't bother me. A lot of people say I don't like reading them. I'm like, yeah, okay. I could afford the book. I could do this. But there's a lot of games out there, older games that can cost like $100. $80 because they're considered collectibles in their hardcover form. But I'm like, I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer. And that's my attitude when I was younger. Like, people are like, do you worry about having this hardcover book? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck at all about having a hardcover. I'm a gamer. I'm here to game. You go collect your fucking books. Let dust get on them. I don't give a shit. I'm here to actually run the game. Well, I was going to cover it from the first edition point of view because I personally have had so much experience with it. But I have ran second edition, right? So a lot of people were saying they understand it better from that point of view. So I was like, okay, I'll put it together and focus on the second edition, which I get it. It's a refined version of it. But it's like, you know me, Black Rose. I personally like just to go back to the oldest version of something and cover it. And I've done that a few times when I ran games I ran other editions of them. But some people ask me, just could you please cover from the 2E? Because there's some more refined things. And I'm like, and they thought it'd be more valuable. And I somewhat agree with it. So I was like, okay, whatever. It's not that much different. It's pretty much the same thing. Oh, secondhand, yeah, I'm 1,000,000% with you. 1,000,000%. Yeah, second edition. No, if you're going to get that, Black Rose, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. Say, if I was someone who was collecting books, yeah, I know some people do it, and I'm not against them doing it. I'm really not. But it's just, why do I usually care a lot less? Why is it like not a big issue to me? Because initially, I just want to game. Like, it's a personal thing. So it's like I found the free PDF of the Bunnies and Burrows game, of the original one. And I know I'll pass that to a lot of people that say, oh, it's in PDF. Oh, I hate fucking, like, I don't want to hear your fucking bitching and moaning. Just shut the fuck up. Read it. Like, are you a gamer? Or are you just somebody who likes to collect books that gets dust on them? I don't mind second edition if it's cheaper and affordable. I get the appeal of wanting to read the book, as long as, to me, reading the book leads to gaming. It's like, I don't want a book. It's like, Steven, do you want this book? Am I going to run that? Probably not, so no. I'll skip on it. But it'd be a great collector's. I don't give a shit. I love collecting PDFs for the reference if necessary, but I can't read those. It's like sitting in a chair with my legs up and read books. I just don't care. I'm a make do. See, that's the thing, Black Rose. I'm a old school make do with what you have type of situation guy. Yeah, I don't personally read. I read like a fucking machine, dude. I read like a machine. Like, it will shock people. They wouldn't even believe I'm reading. I would like have a little novel on the go. Flip. Like, it's because they see me going through it. There's no way you're reading that. I'm like, I am. I started reading the small stories years ago and novels, decades when I was young. And I read all the time. Like, I read like a fucking machine. So I read so often that it just heard. I go through them so quickly. Like, and people are just like, it's not that quick, but it sometimes, I guess, to the onlooker seem that way. They'll be like, there's no way, Steven, you're reading. I'm like, I am. I'm reading that quickly. I read really fast. I love reading. I read really fast. Really, really fast. And to me, it's good because it's a part about being in the hobby. That's why I got to say to you, I experience a lot of people, and I have to be patient with people now, especially in the hobby, because people that usually have a hard time reading, not because of your like life situation, but there's a lot of people, and I have to put the ego away sometimes. I get this very, like, I judge people as lazy all the time. Like, you're fucking lazy, just read. Yeah, I hear that. I love the old role playing books. I love oh man, it like I read everything. There's nothing I don't read. Put it that way. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's almost open. It just depends. I read the first few pages, and if I find myself going, oh shit, okay, doom. That's it to me. It can be science fiction. It could be medieval. It could be romance. I don't care. If I find it interesting, I'll read anything. Right? Like a recent one of the recent ones I read was a romance novel about ghosts, where they're at a hotel and these two people are trying to meet each other and are not trying to meet each other but could meet each other. It's like a romance. The funny part is there's ghosts at the hotel and they keep fucking with the people there, and it's at one point they even save the people there from people trying to rob them. It's fucking hilarious. uh, I love creative stuff, so I don't just assume everything's going to be bad. It just depends on what you're putting to the whole story, right? Yeah, I like interesting. I like funny. I like serious. I like thoughtful shit. Anything, and I read all the time. Read all the time. I do. Reading is part of life. Anyway, when I meet people that have a hard time reading or just don't read much, I'm just like, come on, guys. You're in the tabletop role playing game hobby. It's like I think I used to say I have to calm down now because I just know so many people have a hurt like are lazy. I got to be real. I'll use terms like lazy about reading, but that's actually the majority. If you get mad at a few guys, you might as well just look at 90% of the hobby and start screaming at them and get frustrated, right? Because what you're going to realize is the vast majority of people barely read at all. And when they finally do read, it will be like bits of coming into the game, and then it just the more they play, they might read a bit of it here and a bit. I just don't do that. It's just like, dude, I just need to know where to read, and I will fucking read because I'm interested. I'm interested up front. Okay, let's start. Now we know we go into the fluff. This is the fluff for the game. Ars Magica, second edition, 1989, influences and birth. Let's begin. A different answer to fantasy role playing by the late 1980s. Fantasy RPGs had become heavily influenced by Dungeons and Dragons. Most fantasy games assumed adventurers explored dangerous places, gathered treasure, became more powerful, and eventually ruled kingdoms or continued adventuring. Ars Magica asked a very different question. What if the most important people in the world were scholars and magicians rather than wandering adventurers? Instead of building a game around dungeon exploration and treasure, it built one around magical research, medieval scholarship, political intrigue, long-term projects, the pursuit of knowledge, the responsibilities that came with great magical power. It wasn't trying to make D&D more realistic. It was trying to create a different kind of fantasy campaign altogether. Jonathan Tweet, Mark Rain-Hagen, and Lion Rampant. Ars Magica was created by Jonathan Tweet and Mark Rain-Hagen, who founded Lion Rampant while they were college students. Their goal was to design a fantasy RPG that felt like living inside the myths, legends, and worldview of medieval Europe rather than a world built around modern fantasy conventions. Instead of inventing a completely separate fantasy setting, they asked, what if medieval Europeans were right about how the world worked? That idea became mythic Europe. Demons, angels, saints, fairies, dragons, miracles, relics, curses, and ancient magic all existed not because history had changed, but because medieval beliefs were assumed to be literally true. This historical foundation became one of Ars Magica's defining characteristics. Drawing from history, myth, and ruin quest. Ars Magica's inspiration reached far beyond earlier fantasy RPGs. Designers drew heavily from medieval European history, Christian theology, Hermetic philosophy, alchemy, folklore, Arthurian legends, classical mythology, medieval scholarship. Among role-playing games, Ruin Quest, particularly Grace Stafford's Glorantha, was one of the most important influences. Ruin Quest demonstrated that an RPG world could be shaped by culture, religion, history, and powerful organizations rather than existing primarily as a backup or backdrop for adventurers. Many players and historians have noted similarities between Ruin Quest's cult structure and Ars Magica's Hosts of Hermes. Jonathan Tweet has acknowledged Ruin Quest as a major influence on the game, although he has not stated that the host was directly copied from the cult system, or the host is directly copied from the cult system. It's like, Cyberpunk is, basically influenced by Traveler. There's a lot of influences, which is totally fine. It was never a dramatic thing. There was a lot of copying ideas, but that's because a lot of guys figured stuff out, and it's like, I just never heard a lot of drama. I never heard a lot of drama around that. Reinventing fantasy magic. Perhaps Ars Magica's greatest invention was abandoning the traditional spell list approach. Instead of memorizing hundreds of individual spells, magic was built from combinations of universal magical principles. The system is based on 5 techniques: what you do, create, know, destroy, control, transform, 10 forms, examples: animal, fire, water, air, mind, body, earth, images, power, plants. Every spell combines one technique with one form. Examples include create fire, control water, transform animal, destroy stone. This elegant framework gave players enormous flexibility while remaining structured and consistent. Rather than relying entirely on predefined spell lists, Magi could invent new spells through research or improvise magical effects within the limits of the rules. It remains one of the most influential magic systems ever created for tabletop role-playing games. Wizards were scholars first. Most fantasy RPGs treated wizards as another adventuring profession. Ars Magica treated them as intellectuals. A magus spent much of their life conducting magical research, studying ancient texts, enchanting magical items, writing books, training apprentices, debating magical theory, managing their covenant, navigating the politics of the orders of Hermes. Adventures still happen, but they were often interrupted by a wizard's life work rather than it being the primary purpose of that work. That completely changed the pace and feel of long-term campaigns. The Covenant became a shared character rather than simply belonging to individual heroes. The campaign revolved around a covenant, the shared home of Magi. The Covenant contained laboratories, libraries, magical resources, servants, grogs, companions, wealth, political obligations. Players became invested in improving and protecting the Covenant over decades of in-game time. In many campaigns, the Covenant felt almost like another player's character, growing and changing alongside the Magi who lived there. Troop play. Something I mentioned I would cover, and I'll go into it. Troop play changed the way campaigns worked. Another revolutionary idea was troop-style play. Instead of controlling only one character, each player usually had several. One powerful magus, one companion, one or more grogs. Depending on the story being told, players would switch between these characters. This allowed Magi to remain at home studying or performing years of magical research, while adventurers continued using companions and grogs. The game also encouraged groups to rotate the story guide when appropriate, allowing different players to run stories within the same shared world. I'm going to use their language, stories, and there is a lot more story here because of the way it's framed. So I don't disagree with their take on this. Although many groups still prefer to keep one primary story guide, this style of play remains one of Ars Magica's most distinctive innovations. So it wasn't just multiple characters. The game would push the idea that everybody would take a turn as a game master. It's like taking turns. Though most groups would prefer one core person to have authority even over the others. So in a way, you still at the end of the day had the main person. Now you could bypass this. You didn't have to do this, but this is something they pushed, giving everyone some time to play different characters. But if you were like me, you said fuck it. You became the story guide and stayed there as is. Why second edition matters. The original 1987 edition introduced Ars Magica's groundbreaking ideas. The 1989 second edition refined and strengthened them. Among its most important improvements were clear organization, streamlined rules, simplified combat, the introduction of season-based laboratory activity and advancement, replacing the original month-based approach, changing Ars Magica from a spell into a dedicated ability. Parma is like a way of resisting and defending. Broader presentation of the hosts of Hermes and orders and the order's political structure. More importantly, second edition was the version that brought Ars Magica to a much wider audience and firmly established identity the game would retain through later editions. I really did have a lot of people come to me on this edition. A lasting influence on RPG design. Ars Magica left a lasting mark on tabletop RPG design. Its influence can be seen in flexible magic systems, faction-based character identity, shared campaign headquarters, long-term downtime mechanics, research-focused play, troop-style campaigns. Many designers also see a clear evolution from the political hosts of Hermes to the faction-based structures that later became central to White Wolf games. Where the guys who worked on this went on to work on that stuff. After Ars Magica, Mark Rein-Hagen developed Vampire the Masquerade, where identities such as clans and other supernatural factions became central to play. Likewise, Jonathan Tweet carried ideas from Ars Magica into later projects, including his work on Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. While these games are very different, Ars Magica helped demonstrate how organizations, philosophies, and long-term character goals can become just as important as combat and treasure. Ars Magica is remembered not because it introduced one revolutionary mechanic, but because it brought together several groundbreaking ideas into a single game. Mythic Europe, the technique and form magic system, troop-style play, combat-centered campaigns, long-term magical research, season-based advancement. Many RPG historians consider it one of the most innovative fantasy role-playing games of the 1980s because it didn't simply refine fantasy adventuring, it reimagined what a fantasy campaign could be. By the time of second edition, those ideas had been polished into a game that would influence designers and players for decades to come. There's your upfront fluff. Whew. Before I get into how to run the game and how to play it and make a character, I'm going to have one more of these because I rushed into that. There's your upfront fluff. Troop play where you play more than one character. And it's like, if you're going to play a game and you're only playing a caster that's doing a lot of research, then you're not going to be out doing a lot of adventuring. The idea of bringing these extra characters in was so you could get away with that. And in a way, because they do develop separately, you're developing for real 3 different characters. You're not developing the Magi and here's this henchman. So don't think of the other characters like exactly like henchmen. They'd advance in their own ways. So in many ways, they are literally just you playing 2 or 3 characters and all have different approaches. Yeah, troop play does open up the game. So but you still got to understand, still want you to focus on labs, research, and doing that stuff. But it also knows you might want to get out there and get some action done. And it's how you can play these things together. So you could do lab research, but what if you need certain items? What if you need a certain book? What if you need certain things that would be more easier to obtain by adventuring out into the world to find it? Well, if you're not someone who does get out there and adventure, what would you do? Your grog might go out there and adventure for you, right? So it gives you some adventuring time, some lab time. So it's a different way of hitting all these different approaches with multiple characters for that reason. For that reason. And the more you were comfortable with running and developing, and you thought you could use them for different reasons, the more you could play more than one grog. You could do all these different types of characters, right? But you really had to be comfortable with it. But it still expects you to care about that wizardry side of the game, the laboratory, the research. So when I say the guys in D&D that you might notice that might be, I find this appealing, would be guys that might want to start a business, guys that might be the thief at a higher level starting a thieves guild, guys that care about guilds or this or some form of organization beyond just being out there and adventuring in the world. Players that found that side of the game appealing might find this appealing. No, because it's multiple characters. It's not even that the troop play isn't big. The adventuring part might be for some of the people that want to adventure, but they still have to want to invest in this other side of the game. And this other side of the game is so important to the magus character that you're using that you can't just always be adventuring with them. They do need to go through periods of time of study. This is how they advance the character. And if you don't care to do this, introducing henchmen and what it's just that here's the thing, Black Rose. I totally get that, but it's just like it's a minimal focus on the other side of the game. It's imagine you had a business on the go, but you can't really say you had a game where the business can't really stand without the character being around. And say you need the business for going for a while. You need that to stand. Oh, welcome there, Bill. Yes, we're in the middle of talking about troop play from Ars Magica. And it's the idea of just what if the game required a more extreme approach to your business, to your thieves guild, to your fort, where it just says we're going to have to handcuff your character to this, even though there's potential adventures to be had. So even though there's potential adventures, really for the game to function right, for you to get somewhere and to advance the character. So there's certain things in the game that says for you to not just advance the business, but to advance the character, you need to invest this non-adventuring time, right? You need to give up potential adventures. You sort of need to give up a lot of that side of the game. Well, the henchman here, or the grog, whatever you want to put, is that. But I get what you're saying with henchman is there's a lot less focus and investment from your side as a player too. It's not as hard. Henchmen are just like, there's Greg, the henchman. Fuck, I don't really want to talk too much about Greg. Greg's a nice guy. Can the DM run Greg? You can. It is all possible. The game doesn't say you can't do something. It's giving you options without saying you have to do these things. But it really comes down to negotiating how that's going to work. A game master story guide, let me use terms right here. A story guide could potentially let you just make a magus. Like it doesn't say they can't. And the magus could potentially get out there and adventure. And if other players were playing maguses where you all agreed to go and search for things and then come back and all take off certain seasons for study, you can negotiate that. Though, what it is saying is if there's other sides to the game, like adventuring, and you cared for it, and you thought it was effective, and there's going to be reasons it actually can be, then it becomes effective to have somebody who can get out there while you're taking your magus to advance them through studies over seasons, over periods of time. So the true play, it's a social contract, Samuel-G. It's you got to make sure people are all on the same page. You know what you're doing. Could it be that maybe a player sits out a bit on certain things? Again, that could all be worked out, man. It is a little direct, so there are options for it. But I mean, it's really up to you. It's up to you and the people you're talking to. Could some people be adventuring and you have certain guys that can't make it? Say you had a player that could only play, say you played weekly. Here would be a good example, Sam Tree. Say you had a player that could only show up, you know what I mean, like once a month, right? He could play the Magus and focus on the advancement and talking to the story guy between times. The other guy showing up consistently might want to have Grog troop play, right? One guy might even occasionally just say, for this adventure, I'm not going to start with the Grog right away. He might early on just say he only jumps in when he can, and he'll actually take time off. And that means he'll more negotiate with the story guide. In some cases, some guys could be switching up as story guides, as I talked about there. Ars Magica says more than one person can run the game. So you could have a guy who's in the group who only really plays a Magus, but with the sort of full-time story guide, he'll jump in and let that guy jump in with his Magus or Grog or whatever every so often and run it. And he'll run a bit of, okay, you can advance your Magus, but you can also take your Grog out and do this. It's negotiating. That's all it is. You know what I mean? It's common sense. So social contract. Yep. But is it cool to have troop play? I personally think it is. Personally, I like it, but I'll admit to you, I've only been on the side of the story guide side of the fence. I have not done the player part. That's my one guilt with a lot of games. There's a lot of games I'm like that with. I have not played at all. I did not have other guys take over the story guide thing. I did it full time, which again is just optional. Had guys that were, I had one guy that played a Magus. He could only show up every so often, and none of the guys had a problem with that. And we would try our best to time certain things for him. But he showed up when he showed up consistently. So it was good on him for that. There was no, like, if he could only show up like twice a month, boom, and he was a good guy and knowing his schedule ahead of time. So he'd be able to communicate. But yeah, and then I had very chosen certain players to play that game because some players just didn't want to play. The Magus is the necessity. So I've never opened it up and let somebody just play a Grog or something, even though I don't even think I don't remember the exact details on that. I don't think that's even part of it. I think the Magus is the focus of the game. It is the wizard. Never even looked into the options for just playing the other side of it. But yeah, we had one guy that was playing a Magus. So I mean, that was a real thing. That was a social contract. So I actually did go through that through a campaign. And he did really good. Every so often he could show up and he would go adventuring with the Grogs. Right, with other guys. And it wasn't always Grogs. Sometimes it's even weirder, depending on the players you have and how advanced they are. I've allowed Maguses, guys who had multiple characters, like two Grogs to go together. They're Magus and they're Grog, but I'm like, I'm only going to let you go out there as if you feel you can jump between the two characters consistently and play them. So that'd be my deal with players. Like I'm not letting you play two characters at once if you can't handle it. So my rule was always, you got to be comfortable with it. Because I could do that. I could put 4 NPCs with you. And I could literally, as say you're on travel or something in the game, I can jump between all 4 personalities and present them all in the same conversation. You can be like, talk to this guy, and I can jump from one to another, doing all the personalities and talking in the same dialogue. I could do that if you're all sitting at the table together with 4 NPCs. And so I'm a guy who ran, like, if you hired henchmen in D&D, I'd run every henchman as NPCs. I'd speak for them. They'd have personalities. But I'm comfortable with that. If I get players that are comfortable with more than one character, but I say that with anybody. There's a lot of players out there in a lot of games that they'll ask you to play something. And I'm like, dude, I hate to say it to certain players, but they got to earn a little bit of trust with me on certain things. So the more difficult you want to be, the more you got to show me you can do difficult. I just don't like wasting time. Okay. Ars Magica 2nd Edition, How to Run It. Run the world as medieval people understood it. The first thing a story guide should embrace is this is mythic Europe, not a generic fantasy setting. People do not think like modern people. A village priest may genuinely protect community from supernatural evil. A noble might fear a curse more than an army. Scholars debate rather than they'll debate, like, say, faith and even supernatural rather than modern science. Common folk tell stories about fairies because in this world those stories can be true. As a story guide, don't explain the world through modern logic, present it through a medieval worldview. That single change does more to establish the setting than any monster or location. Yeah, it just all depends on if they can play them. Yeah, I've had great groups be able to do that. And then I've had players that can't. So you got to give it's one thing to say you achieve, like I give all the stories to people where I achieved this and I have great groups, but everyone who's listening, I always consider the people that run into the issues because those are the people, Bill, that need the help, right? I mean, me just saying, yeah, I had great players, everything went great, everything was perfect. Well, dude, I have shit players. That really doesn't help me. Could you say something that helps me? Okay, let me. let me talk about if you have players that have not proven something with you, get them to prove something to you. So it's nice. I mean, I've had all kinds of good things, but at a certain point, I just realized as a YouTuber, you don't need to hear my good stories. I get enough of them, right? What most people are going to listen for, the people that really need the help are the people that are in trouble, running into players that are issues and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, I've had lots of great groups that could play multiple characters. I myself can do it pretty consistently, so I don't mind that. But because I ran for so many players, I ran to tons where if I give them and their henchmen, and say on that night early on in the 90s, I'd be like, oh, can you run both your characters? Yeah, no problem. And then they have a hard time. Like they barely speak for the henchman. They can barely talk for the guy. They make no effort at developing a personality. They do nothing with it. And it's like, but then I'll hear even worse is because I have high standards, Bill. If somebody says, well, that was good enough. No, it wasn't. See, I have higher standards. See, it's the difference between me and what a lot of other people call smooth or good. In my opinion, oh, you played your character normal and you barely fucking touch on the henchman, even though you said you control that. That's not smooth or good. That's bad. So we might have got the game done quick, but there's nothing to that guy, and there was all kinds of opportunities. Yeah, that wasn't good. So I personally, I just have a higher standard. So there's always, when I talk to people, it's usually when they tell me things that went well, it's like my only qualm is at least it went well to them, and it's okay if that's what you think is good. Nothing wrong with it. But to me, I just have a bit of a higher stance. Like, is this guy barely existing? Well, then you didn't play two characters. Oh, now comes to old school combat. That's a different story. I 1,000,000% agree with you, Bill. Old school combat is all about speed factor, and it still challenges. That's what new school guys won't get. They'll be like, it's some downgrade. It's the old game. I'm like, no, the old game's combat is pretty advanced, dude. Actually, probably more advanced because you have to think a bit more than your new 5e game. And on top of being more advanced than your 5e game, it's faster. You know, that 2.5 hour fight? Well, here, we'll have it done 25. Bill, I think you would agree with me. It doesn't mean the occasional combat can't last an hour or so. But I mean, we're talking about like extraordinary combat with a dragon where you take your time, you're doing a bit of role play. All that could add up to an hour or so. But you go into a fight with goblins in 5e, and you could be there for 2.5 hours. Right? And even worse is, and this is true, I don't care what anybody says, because some guys out there will be like, well, they say it's all up. I literally watch where I'm watching, and you could tell the fight, especially after running it. You could tell the fight halfway through. And you know there's a long time left to go. And it's not even being ran terrible. And you'll be like, that fight is over. The players are going to win. And they probably got another 45 minutes to an hour. And like you can tell where it's going. The fight is going to end with the characters winning, but they are going to be there for real for another 45 minutes to an hour. And that's even if they skip a lot of certain elements. If they start adding role play in there and all these other elements, then you're like, guaranteed an hour. So that's where I say I find 5e and 3e included, right? 3e had this issue too. 3e, 4e, and 5e. I would personally call broken combat systems. Absolutely wrecked, broken, some of the worst, probably the worst combat systems I've seen. And even compared to tabletop role-playing games where I'm not a big fan of certain combat systems, they're the worst. There's nothing. There's nothing worse than Wizards of the Coast D&D combat. I say it's the worst combat system I've ever seen in any tabletop role-playing game. Something that should be simple takes you 2 hours on average. You're fucking done. You're fucking done. I'm done with you. Okay. So what I was saying there is on that first one, this is about establishing something and remembering to do it as a game master, as a story guide. The designers want this to be medieval Europe. Now, of course, there's some more realism to what guys might say, so they might be more righteous in talking about fairies. But the idea is, don't talk as if you're in a different timeline. People like then were more extreme about certain things. They won't just talk about science. They'll talk about supernatural and religious beliefs first, and sort of their fantasy take on the world around them, because many people outside of even the wizardry are just ignorant about reality. In some cases, they're not even ignorant, because in this world, in this sort of mythical version of it, there's some established reality to the myth. It's not that just people claim to see fairies. The fucking town has seen fairies. And there might still be a fairy just down the street where you can go, there's an actual fucking fairy. It's not a myth, right? So you have to really look at the NPCs as a way of, they will express the setting. You're in Europe. It's not like you got to teach people about Europe. You got to have them feel the timeline. So you have to really remember the mindset of people back in the day. It's not hard to even figure this out. And they give a lot of hints in Ars Magica to what that's like in Mythic Europe. The priest is going to be extreme, but not going to be a guy with a cardboard box on the side of the road. He's going to be taken serious. This is going to be commonplace to protect versus evil, right? It's going to have that attitude. And a lot of people are going to agree with him. And if you call him crazy, they're going to call you crazy. Right? They're going to treat you like you're the weird outsider with the issue. Right? So you have to express that reality to make it feel real. Sometimes a game doesn't need rules or mechanics. There's a certain side of the game that isn't real unless you express it right, and doesn't require mechanics. It's just presentation, baby. It's presentation. So present people having that type of mindset. And don't think you're in Seattle in 2026, right? Like, don't get confused about where you are. This is not purple and blue hair people. This is medieval Christian types, right? The same guy in modern days that would be standing out in the corner screaming with a cardboard box around him is deadly taken serious at these times. Think in seasons, not sessions. One of the biggest adjustments for new story guides or game masters in this game is learning to let time pass. Many RPGs move from one adventure directly into the next. Ars Magica expects something different. A campaign often follows a rhythm like this, an expectation to recover a forgotten text. Each player chooses how their characters spend the coming season. Several months pass, a political dispute between covenants, another season of laboratory work, a tribunal gathering, another adventure inspired by what happened during downtime. So It's imagine that first there's tons of downtime, and there's a lot of it. And between each downtime, it's not always an adventure, but maybe an event, certain special meetings, certain get togethers. So adventures might only really be happening every so often, right? Finally, there's a reason to go on an adventure. And there are going to be a lot of time jumps. You want to travel over to the tribunal, it's more about that. It's a lot less about adventuring. So, now adventures, you could justify quite a few adventures. And this is where you might have your Magus go off to a tribunal and you got to jump over and do something with that. But you could have adventures sort of going on at the same time with Grogs, your extended characters. But straight up adventures that could include the Magus himself might only be happening every so often. Don't feel obligated to role play every week or month. If nothing dramatically important happens, simply summarize the passing seasons and move forward. So there's a lot of time jumping here, a lot of management. This is where I say it's not all about adventuring. There's a lot of, time's going to keep going and keep going and keep going until you get a reason. But trust me, the idea is when you finally hit reasons to get out there and do something, you can do incredible things. And all this time will show its payoff for what you can do, the immense things you can do. The important thing is that players decide how their magi spend those seasons, studying, researching, inventing spells, training apprentices, creating enchanted items, or setting those plans aside for an unexpected adventure or meaningful choices. And the adventure could only be a small set in with what you're doing. The passage of time is part of the gameplay, not simply something happening in the background. So imagine trying to play one of the new games. You might get a sort of feel like this. You ever play one of these games where you start off like a video game, and there's dialogue? Like, okay, when do I start running around? And you run around for a second, and there's like more dialogue. Then you run around for a second, you get there's more fucking. When the fuck do I start playing this goddamn game? Sorry, Lord. When do I start running around and playing this damn game? You get Ars Magica is a lot of that. So you better really come into this going, I'm down for deciding things, summarizing things, figuring out how things work. There's a little bit of role play, there's a little bit of adventuring, but there's a lot of this. The Covenant should generate stories. Think of the Covenant less as an adventuring base and more as a medieval institution. It is part monastery, part university, part noble estate, and part magical fortress. It has resources, income, politics, obligations, allies, enemies, a growing reputation. Rather than asking, what dungeon should they explore next? Ask, what problem does the Covenant face now? Examples include a shortage of magical resources, political pressure from another host, a damaged laboratory, disputes between companions, an apprentice causing trouble, a noble demanding assistance, rumors of an untapped vis source. VIS, we'll get to vis, but that means sooner or later. Disagreements over how the Covenant should be governed. The best Covenants create adventures naturally. Even if players never leave home, life inside the Covenant should continue to evolve. So even if there's only a few adventuring things happening, there should be all these potential. There's crazy people in the background. Should be potential crazy things happening where you might have to go defend your apprentice behavior or even find out what is the problem. Or maybe it's another magi, an NPC whose apprentice is going crazy and giving you issues, right? It can't control the background, my friend. Okay. So just understand it's not all about adventuring. And there's a lot of little moments where you might have to step in, negotiate something, talk about something, go to a tribunal. Adventuring is like scattered. not something you continue on. The majority of the time, you'll be doing a lot of summarizing what happened afterwards. You talk for a bit, here's a decision. So what are you doing for the next little while? I'll do research this time. It's a lot of that. So just be ready for it. That's why I say this game is not made for everyone. It's made for people that are really going to be into this sort of side of the game, right? Let the Order of Hermes drive the campaign. The Order should feel like a living society, not background lore. That's no. What I'm saying is what the designers intend. This doesn't mean that's how other people experience Ars Magica. There's a lot of people out here we know that do not always follow intention from designers. So there's a difference between designer intent and what they're expecting and what you might have seen or yourself experienced with other people running Ars Magica. But if it's going against what I'm saying, it is going against designers' intent for the game. That's all I'm saying. Let the Order of Hermes drive the campaign. The Order should feel like a living society, not background lore. Every covenant should exist within a wider network of allies, rivals, obligations, and politics. Ask yourself, which covenant trusts the players? Which one competes with them? Who owes them a favor? Who expects one in return? Which host shares their goals? Which host constantly disagrees with them? Tribunals provide the formal place where disputes are settled, rulings are made, and politics play out. Even when one is years away, decisions made today easily become tomorrow's tribunal case. When politics already exist before the players become involved, the world feels much larger than a series of isolated adventures. And you want the world to feel a little bigger than just you. Like you want that there's already issues between the different groups, the different houses when you enter the different covenants. You want politics already on the go. Who's leading? Who has issues? And you're stepping into that. And what you hear today, the issue somebody might have, might be a tribunal in 4 years. Might turn into a case. It's not just, oh, there's an issue, now we get to solve it. And this is going to be a thing. And because so many years are going by really fast, you're going to find yourself through time jumping that what you think could take forever isn't. And so it's really on the mind of the person running it when you have an issue happen then. And then here you are, just long periods of time are going by, and suddenly, as a story guide or game master, I might be looking at it like, well, at this stage, that little issue had to become bigger through summarizing. Okay, there has to be a trial. This is going to go to a tribunal. And you might be called to these if you are related to the issues going on with them. Present problems, never predetermined solutions. This is advice from me personally. Ars Magica system works best when story guides create situations rather than answers. Instead of designing adventures around one correct solution, present obstacles with multiple possible approaches. A flooded river could be crossed by freezing the water, flying over it, negotiating with a spirit, constructing a bridge through magic, finding another route entirely. I'll get to why. If the player surprises you, that's usually the sign the game is working as intended. The flexibility of the magic system is one of Ars Magica's greatest strengths, so avoid narrowing it by expecting only one solution. This game allows players to try anything. So it's like there's no spell list. There's no exact answer for anything. If I have one thing you could do to get over it, well, then I defeat the entire purpose of the game. The game is to say, man, there's a difficulty, and I mean, you as someone running the game, got to say there's some common sense ways you could see getting over the issue, but you don't have to worry about having an exact answer. It's like, I mean, there's one there. There's ways to get around it. There's ways to do this. You don't have to have an exact answer. The idea is there's so many different things players can do through their experimentation, through their magic, that you just got to go, hey, you can figure it out. I mean, look, I do have one rule. Always make sure there's one way I know for sure you could. But there's never an expectation that you take it. Not in this game. Not in this game. There are so many different ways. If you're doing the expected thing, I guess, if there is an expected thing, it's almost like disappointing for this game. because this game is meant to be creative. It's like, oh wow, you're doing something pretty crazy, but I'm like, I'm in Ars Magica. Game master has to be wide open to these things, or story guide. This is all about what the game is about. It is experimenting and doing random things and seeing how it works, right? Just seeing how it plays itself out. And that means in almost every situation, there should be more than one way, potentially with magic, that you could cross the thing, right? That you could cross the thing. So keep that in mind. Don't always have to have these answers. Don't be so simple in your approach as someone who runs a game, and that don't run it like a D&D DM. Run it like a guy who knows there's just so many ways they could pitch a solution to this that you usually don't have to think of one. Though I do have a rule, it's a principle. I only think of one just to make sure I know for sure there is a way out of something, right? Or through something or around, whatever it is. Because it's an old school D&D principle where I won't put you in a situation if I myself cannot think of a way out of that situation. I think that's unfair to the players, right? If I put you in a cell and you're like, well, DM, how do it? There is no way out, is there? But there should be something. Well, that means by principle, me as a DM should be required to have come up with that one thing. And if I can't, I should not be putting you in that situation. I still keep that principle with every game I go to, right? Even this one. But it's a lot less necessary because there's so many things you can try with your words. Laboratories are long-term investments. A laboratory is not simply a place where spells are cast. It becomes one of Maga's personal or greatest personal achievements. Over the course of a campaign, players gradually improve their laboratories, making them better suited to research, enchanting items, and magical experimentation. Many of the game's most significant magical accomplishments happen here rather than during adventures. New spells, enchanted devices, original research, years of study often begin and end inside the laboratory. Encourage players to care about these improvements. A well-developed laboratory should feel like years of work brought to life, and protecting or enhancing it can become an adventure in its own right, and even sort of justify getting out there in the world. Like, man, you could get these pieces for your laboratory, but you got to cross here and do this. It's not easy to get in this place. Okay. There's an adventure waiting, and even the Magus might have to just go, okay, Grog, sit down, baby. I'm going to go get this one done. Knowledge is the greatest reward. Many fantasy RPGs reward characters with gold or magical equipment. Ars Magica often rewards them with knowledge. A recovered book may advance magical studies for years. Ancient laboratories' notes might reveal entirely new possibilities. A newly discovered magical source, this source could transform the Covenant's future. Knowledge isn't simply another type of treasure. It is often the resource that drives future advancement. When planning rewards, think beyond coins and magic items. Because information, especially through books and stuff like that, can be so valuable to this game. So valuable to what the character could obtain, make, create, advance. It is worth more than coins and simple magic equipment. So the value of knowledge here really plays itself out. It really is that much reward, and players will feel that. So think of it like the treasure is information. Use every character type. Players normally have access to magi, companions, grogs. Each fill a different role. A magi is ideal when powerful magic is central to the story. A companion can handle diplomacy. See, this is advice that you use all of them when they're optional, when the people are actually doing them. So a companion can handle diplomacy, travel, or personal conflicts where overwhelming magical power would be unnecessary or inappropriate. Grogs allow dangerous missions without constantly risking the Covenant's most valuable members. Over a long campaign, many Grogs become memorable characters in their own right, developing personalities and histories alongside the Magi. Likewise, don't assume every adventure requires every player's magus. One wizard may remain home researching while another player's companion joins the expedition instead. That flexibility is one of the defining features of troop style play. You don't initially have to have these people, or at least even if you do, they don't have to be part of the game this way. So you can almost put them as background, in some cases, just not have them at all. But the game is made for them. There are parts of the game where you could see why there's a reason to have them. There is unique situations, like I said, socially, where you could sort of understand why somebody might not have that connected to their character. But in most cases, power comes with commitments. Magi possess tremendous magical ability, but the game deliberately surrounds that power with commitments. The Code of Hermes, relationships with other hosts, limited magical resources, apprentices, political obligations, and the risk of experimentation all prevent magic from becoming a universal solution. Rather than treating these as restrictions, use them to create meaningful choices. The most memorable stories often arise because powerful characters cannot solve every problem through magic alone. Build campaigns around long-term goals. Nearly every major subsystem in Ars Magica encourages players to think beyond the adventure. Characters pursue ambitions that may take years to achieve, completing original magic research, training apprentices, improving laboratories, strengthening the Covenant, expanding their libraries, earning influence within the Order of Hermes. Over time, a Magus leaves behind more than personal accomplishments, books, more than personal accomplishments. Books, enchantments, enchanted items, laboratories, apprentices, and a thriving Covenant become a lasting legacy that future generations can build upon. Instead of asking what happens next session, ask where do the characters hope to be 5 years from now? That long-term perspective is one of the defining qualities of Ars Magica. You really should. You should really always be having that type of conversation with the players on where they see their characters years down the road, because things are going to go faster than you would think. You are doing a lot of time jumping. So it's almost better to have them have a sort of idea in their own mind and you to have an idea. So it's easier to guide that instead of constantly getting sort of stuck, like what you do now. And then if you're sort of vague on what you're doing, sometimes you miss the bigger goals that you could be achieving. Like you could be achieving a bigger goal, but if you're not taking the right steps, you don't achieve it. So if you're just sort of randomly going, well, I guess I'll do this, I guess I'll do this, only look back realizing if I had known that, I could have done this next and then this. So in a game like this where it's pushing that type of outcome, play to it, not against it. Combat is only one tool. Combat exists, but it's rarely the only or even the best solution. Preparation, diplomacy, legal arguments within the order, magical research, careful planning, and clever spell use often accomplish far more than simply defeating an opponent in battle. Combat can also carry serious consequences. Violence between magi is not simply a tactical decision. It may bring legal scrutiny under the Code of Hermes and create political repercussions that last for years. When combat does occur, it should feel like an important event rather than an unexpected outcome of every adventure. This helps preserve the tone of the game centered on scholars, politics, and magical discovery. One of Ars Magica's greatest strengths is that it rewards patience. Many fantasy RPGs ask, what do the characters do today? Ars Magica often asks, what do they hope to accomplish again over the next 5 years? Because the rules actively support the passage of time. Campaigns can naturally span decades without feeling forced. If you embrace that slower rhythm, you'll discover a game that remains one of the most distinctive fantasy role-playing experiences ever designed. Whew. Talk to me, baby. The mechanics I'm going to get into for the mechanic part of the game. But be more to the players that the mechanics can be very important to understanding certain things. But in reality, here, let's go over something. So, say there's like 15 pieces of art to make magic. Let me go through it with you. And you combine these things with different ideas, and then you roll the dice when you pitch ideas through them. Creo, which is like create. Intelligo, which is like to understand. Muto, which is to transform. Perdo, which is to destroy. Rego, which is to control. You then follow that up with things like animal. Aquum, which is water. All the words that you initially run into are in Latin, but I'm just going to give you sort of the English take on them. So, or aquum. Aquum is water. Auram is air. Corpus is body. Herbam is plants. Ignum is fire. Enum is images. Mentum is mind. Terram is earth. And Weem, or Vim, but Weem is how it's pronounced, is raw magical power. So it'd be like, you might want to control water. That would be like, it'd be like Creo Aquum. Could be control water. Or, sorry, create water. It'd be Rego. Sorry, I'm getting this right. Or Rego. Rego and Aquum. So Rego Aquum could be control water. Creo, say, Ignum could be create fire. And these are possibilities. And as you learn them, as they officially get accepted by you, the person from the game, the story guy says, okay, I will let that be a thing. I will let that mean control whatever, right? Okay, that's established. The second that is established, you can write that down, right? And that will be the order. Sometimes you need a requisite. Like a requisite might be using the third, like it's like you want to like transform something, and like be muta, which is transform, corpus, which is body, right? And you want a requisite of animal because you want to change that person into a wolf, say. Right? So I want to change that person into a wolf. This is what you would, this is the combination, work with the requisite. Now, you have all this initially, as every magi has access to all this. But it's how many points have you spent on it? So say you have like 0 or 1 point on the requisite animal. Well, the chances that you'll achieve this in a dice roll, because that's what it's going to require, is very low. So the more points you spend on stuff, the more you can achieve these ideas. And once the idea is accepted that will do the thing, that's one more thing you know. Right? That's part of the experimentation. But it's a lot of ideas. You could have a bunch of great ideas, but if you haven't spent points on certain things, most of the time you would try them, it would be fail, 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 fail. And it's only on a D10. So there's also the 0. You roll a 0, which is 10. But if you roll a 0 and you roll another 0, potentially, you get into very dangerous areas. Yeah, that's the magic. That's how casting is. Right there. And it's all words initially in Latin, but I mean, just translate into English, right? Like Creo just means, create. Rego means control. Aquum would mean water, right? And so then you're combining these, and there's the first so many words. So these words at the start, Creo, Intellego, Muto, Perdu, and Rego are all the initial front words. All the secondary words and requisites are animal. Well, I will just say the English versions of them: animal, water, air, body, plants, fire, images, mind, earth, and raw magical power. And you're coming up with ideas, right? So, and it's not hard to pull certain things off, right? But difficulty is like there is a simple roll and a difficulty roll. Now, a simple roll could be something like some casual form of control water, where a difficulty roll, I guess, depends on how the story guide wants to apply it, could be something in the vein of you want to control a moving river. You want to stop part of it or just stop it. Well, I mean, you can only do so much of that, but still, that becomes a more difficult roll right there. And then it's when you're doing that control water gimmick, it's how many points have you spent on Rego and Aqua. Now, if you have a lot of points in each, or you've advanced that through stuff you're doing, your dice roll will be pretty good. You probably succeed. If you spent like 1 point on each or no points, again, it doesn't matter how many points the player spends on this stuff. They still have access to it. But it just means likely it won't work. Likely you are to fail the dice roll. That's all. So that part of using magic is not hard to understand. I hope that helps a bit with understanding the whole magic system right there. And I'm not going to go over setting because I think I've made the point about it is medieval Europe. I'm not going to go. It is mythical Europe. It is a fantasy version of Europe. The game will sell. It will explain it itself pretty well. I'm not going to pitch that. So we're going to go over one more main part. And hopefully this part is the last part. If you could stay here, Black Rose, this will pretty much be it. Other than a few mechanical things that are going on about after this. Just a few things. A few details like permanent stuff. All right. Character creation, advice for players. And this is good because, look, when I tell you things to think about, this is really good because if not, like it could take you forever to learn this stuff. And it depends on how many times you're going to play. You might never try some of the things I'm going to suggest. Like I'm someone who's done this over and over and over again. And I'm good at figuring things out. And a lot of this stuff, look, I've seen groups not figure it out. Players not figure this out and only get their one opportunity to play it. So it'd be nice if it was like D&D and you're going to play it for years to come. But you're probably not going to. Most people, if they get an opportunity, will get one. So I think this is valuable under those conditions. Cool, Black Rose. Let's go. Decide what kind of story you want to tell before choosing abilities or magical talents. Decide what sort of person your character is. Ars Magica is less interested in asking how powerful is your wizard and more interested in asking who is this person and what do they hope to accomplish. Some magi seek forgotten knowledge. Others pursue political influence. Some dream of creating legendary magical items. It's really good to know who your character is here. A little bit up front, have some idea of really who you want them to be. So it gives you some guidance going into the game. Because if not, there's the general ideas of what you could do are so far out there, it can leave you confused. So having asking yourself questions, so like, who is your person? What is their goals? Really having a bit of a backstory to this person and what they want to accomplish is actually really good for this game, right? Others may hope to preserve ancient traditions, establish a famous covenant, or train the next generation of magi. Having a long-term ambition gives your character direction long after character creation is finished. This is so true. So very true. Choose a host that matches your story. One of the most important decisions is choosing a host of Hermes. A host is not simply a profession or a character class. It represents your magical education, traditions, philosophy, political relationships, and how other magi are likely to view you. Rather than asking which host has the strongest abilities, ask which host tells the kind of stories I want to experience. Do you enjoy political intrigue, magical experimentation, ancient mysteries, travel, research, combat? Your host will influence your character's place in the Order of Hermes throughout the campaign, making it one of the most important long-term decisions you'll make. Build a specialist, not a generalist. Ars Magica rewards expertise. Trying to excel at everything usually produces a character who struggles to stand out Instead, become exceptionally good at some things, or just something. Perhaps your magus becomes renowned for healing, enchanting magical devices, magical investigation, negotiating with fairies, creating original spells, researching forgotten lore. Remember that a covenant becomes stronger because its members specialize. You are not expected to solve every problem yourself. One magi's weakness are often balanced by another strength, encouraging cooperation instead of competition. So basically, what is it saying? Look, if you try to spread your points really thin, you won't succeed as often. If you really, really focus on a few areas, man, and you put a lot of your points and a lot of your time there, when you go to achieve something, you will fucking achieve it most of the time. And you'll be able to be very powerful in these areas and be able to really be competent when it comes to doing these things. If not, you'll be mediocre and vague in a variety of areas, and you'll make a little bit of impact, not much, right? Not much. So it's one of these things where, look, players can sort of spread out their points and try to be able to somewhat play on everything, but that means you weaken dice rolls, you weaken the chance of success in a lot of areas. You have control over this, players. So it doesn't mean only one thing you have to have every point on, right? Like one sort of set of things. But it's have a secondary, fair enough. But don't try to spread your points out so you're just trying to be okay at like a variety of things. It's not how it works. Most of the time you will fail. You'll be less competent when you're doing things. You want competent things you can be counted on for and known for. It will help with your reputation, achieve other things. There's so many different areas of the game where that's going to be necessary, not just in performance out and about on an adventure. Think beyond your statistics. Mechanical numbers matter, but they should support the character rather than define them. Ask yourself, what does Magi enjoy studying? Which magical theories fascinate them? What question keeps them awake at night? How do they treat mundane people? Which host traditions do they embrace or challenge? What would they risk everything to protect? Those answers often become more memorable than any numerical value on a character sheet. More importantly, they naturally create future adventures because curiosity drives discovery. The more you know about your character, the more you at least have an understanding of these questions and answers for them. First off, you'll know where you want to specialize. So then it can count, but it counts under your aim. It also, you'll understand a little bit more about how you're going to approach role play without needing to try to just get lost in trying to figure all this out, right? And you want to create someone who's realistic. Ask yourself some of these questions as you're designing the character with a bit of backstory and a bit of who they are, right? Give yourself some guidance. Doesn't mean you don't develop the character. Doesn't mean the character doesn't change. Doesn't mean you don't add more to the character as you go forward. But it's good to have some direction. I'm doing something illegal. I'm telling you about Ars Magica. They've come to arrest me. He's giving the secrets away. We're going to stop him. Think about the legacy you want to leave. Even early in a campaign, it helps to think beyond your own character. Many Magi eventually hope to train apprentices, write influential books, establish remarkable laboratories, create famous enchanted items, make discovery future generations will study. Unlike many fantasy RPGs, Ars Magica encourages players to think about what their characters leave behind, not simply what they achieve personally. That long-term outlook gives purpose to years of in-game play. Another thing Ars Magica wants you to consider is the more you get players that actually want to do this stuff, write a book, leave a history, when you start your next campaign, the idea is that stuff should carry over. You should be just playing into the covenants that you've already ran. And if you've had players already establish things, they made this great book. You walk in, you see a statue that was built to a famous Magi who was a player playing that guy who became famous. Right? So a bit of a continuation. But it really does help give you a purpose, give you an aim, and let you establish the character as somebody important to the story. Yes. This cares about the story that emerges, right? Story emerge like in D&D, story just emerges randomly. In Ars Magica, because of this unique approach in game, what emerges, because there's so much time passing, is the focus. See, I'm not just going to take, like, this is not D&D. D&D, I might take you to a camp on a night when nothing's going to happen. And then one night, you might get jumped by goblins. I'm doing that because I want you to think I'm unpredictable, so you can't trust anything. That's a game element. That's no good for a story. And this, in Ars Magica, I won't be doing that. Not in the same way. So every element really cares about the story that emerges and cares about it. It's not just a byproduct of what happens. It's something that matters to what happens. The story that emerges is so important that it's considered to be something to carry on and develop the world that you're in. So it's like a TV show in that way. It's going to continue on. Your reputation begins immediately. The Order of Hermes is a relatively small society. Your actions influence how other magi see you. Keep promises. Breaking agreements. So keeping promises, breaking agreements, showing restraint, winning arguments, teaching apprentices, helping neighboring covenants, publishing valuable research, making important magical discoveries all contribute to the reputation your character builds over time. Other magi may become interested not only in who you are, but in your books, your laboratory, your apprentices, and magical knowledge you create. Success naturally attracts attention. Magic is a tool for creativity. Ars Magica rewards players who think creatively. Instead of asking, do I have the correct spell? Ask, how can I use the magic knowledge my character possesses to solve this problem? The game's flexible magic system encourages experimentation within its rules. Some of the most memorable moments come from combining familiar magical principles into unexpected ways. The goal is not to memorize every spell, it is to understand how magic works. Except that your Magus won't do everything. One of the hardest adjustments for new players is realizing that their Magus does not need to participate in every adventure. Sometimes remaining at the Covenant to continue research is the wiser choice. That work may benefit the entire Covenant long after the current expedition has ended. When your Magus stays behind, another character can take the spotlight instead. Rather than seeing this or missing out, think of it as allowing the story to follow whichever characters are best suited to the situation. Over time, this creates a richer campaign with a wider cast of memorable personalities. It's back to the troop play. It's a promotion of troop play, and why I think it is valuable to the game. It doesn't exist for no reason. It exists because this game is built for it. You don't have to do whatever you don't want to do, but it is built for it. I mean, in unique situations, you can do something alternative, but for the most part, if you have regular people coming back and back and back, and you want to do certain things, this is valuable because the magi, they shouldn't always be free for this stuff. You should be trying to do other things, and you're probably going to have goals that require you to skip over some of the stuff with the magic using characters like that. Relationships matter as much as magic. Powerful magic may solve immediate problems. Relationships solve long-term ones. Develop friendships within the Covenant. Respect experienced magi. Build trust with companions. Treat grogs as people rather than expandable followers. Earn favors instead of demand them. The strongest Ars Magica's campaign often revolve around relationships that have developed over many years. It's like anything. You can't get the advancement. You can't get the help. You can't get the easy deal if you're not friendly with people. If you have no relationship, like, do you know that guy? Did you bother to go talk to him? Did you form something? Did it matter to you? Well, if it doesn't, life's going to be a lot harder. And a good game master will make it that you need stuff. And there'll be people around, but no relationship formed with them to ask any favors at any time, which leaves it really hard for you to ask for things. Well, now you got to pay full price. You're not friends with him. He's not going to do you a favor. He doesn't know who the fuck you are. Matters. Plan for years, not levels. Unlike many fantasy RPGs, success is rarely measured by reaching the next level. Instead, think about what your character hopes to achieve over the next decade. Perhaps they want to write an influential magical text, as we talked about, master a branch of magic, establish a famous laboratory, train exceptional apprentices, discover an ancient magical secret, strengthen their covenant. Many long-running campaigns naturally become multi-generational. Apprentices who began as students may eventually become respected magi themselves, and in some groups, even become future player characters. These ambitions give meaning to choices you make throughout the campaign. There's a lot of principles to this game. So many. So many. This is magical currency. VIS is the VIS I was telling you about. One of the game's most distinctive mechanics is this. This is concentrated magical energy gathered from the world. Rather than functioning like ordinary treasure, it is consumed when performing many significant magical activities. Different forms of this exist, each connected to a particular aspect of magic. Choosing when and where to spend this becomes an important strategic decision. Owning dependable vis sources is often more valuable than possessing large amounts of ordinary wealth. Charactermen. One of the most distinctive mechanics in Ars Magica is Charactermen, a formal system of magical dueling used by members of the Order of Hermes. Rather than settling every disagreement through violence, Magi can resolve certain disputes through ritualized contest of magical skill. Charactermen reinforces one of the game's central ideas. Even conflict between wizards is governed by rules, traditions, and centuries of accumulated culture. It's another example of the mechanics strengthening the setting rather than existing separately from it. Now, let me go over some details here. Parma Magic, or Parma Magica. Parma Magica is one of the most defining discoveries in the history of the Order of Hermes. Without it, the Order would probably never have survived. Perma-magic grants magical resistance. That means powerful magi can simply overwhelm one another, or cannot simply overwhelm one another with every spell they cast. In the setting, this discovery made lasting cooperation possible. Mechanically explains why magical duels become contests of skill rather than automatic victories for whoever cast first. Penetration. A common question is, if I cast a spell at another wizard, does it automatically work? No. A spell must overcome the target's magical resistance. Power alone isn't enough. You must also penetrate that resistance. Perma-magic or Parma-magic is one of the main reasons magical battles and contests between skilled magi rather than that there is contest between skilled magi than simply say effortless victories happen because you could just cast first before the other person. Okay. There you go. I covered what I would call the main mechanics. I mean, the magic stuff I went over. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to pitching. There's a lot of little details. But remember, I do an overview here. I'm not here as it's not a peer review. I'm not here just exactly teaching you the game. I give you some principled advice. All the advice I just gave you for the game is fucking mint. Anybody who knows Ars Magica or wanted to play it and got the material would listen to what I said and said, yes, that's exactly how you should be considering making a character. That's exactly your mental approach to running the game. The setting, say, when you're the way the mindset of the NPC is very important to actually pitching the setting itself. You know, not going to be hard to pitch Europe. It is what it is, medieval Europe, right? It's how does medieval Europe feel like medieval Europe? Well, the mindset of the NPCs is a real easy way if you do it right. If you're making sure they think that way, talk that way, and come at it that way, it will feel exactly like what the designers want it to feel like. It will feel like you're in medieval Europe, right? So don't talk like modern day people and don't think like we think, right? They don't think that way. They would think in myth and all these type of other things. They wouldn't think in, say, some nerdy scientific way or cut things down. They wouldn't do that. That's not how they think or talk. So suddenly an NPC is talking like some guy in 2026 who's in the tabletop role-playing game hobby disagreeing with you. You have fucking lost the plot. You have lost the plot. You are not representing the fucking setting whatsoever. You need to get your head out of your ass and change your fucking approach. Get good. That's what I would tell you. Get good. Hate to be so harsh on that. Get good. Because designers, no, I'm sort of joking. Designers really intend that. Because, I mean, if not, you're just like, what? You're playing in a medieval setting, but you're going to argue with a nerd from 2026? That guy wouldn't disagree with me that way. And the player should be able to take advantage of who they really are. If they know these people won't pick things apart like that, that should be a role-playing advantage. And that is meant to be what you're experiencing. They wouldn't argue that way. It's going to be a little easier to convince them of something that might be evil. It should be. But if your game master is running it like, oh, most of these guys will think like 2026 nerds, so it'll be impossible to convince them of anything. Well, there goes an advantage that you should have. And it's like I get a kick out of some game masters out there that will like have the NPCs acting like 2026 nerds, and then suddenly you're like going, yeah, but that thing might be evil, and the game master actually has to consider that guys might think that's evil. So that you have to have this guy, the NPC goes from thinking like a modern day nerd to, well, I guess yeah, it's evil. And it seems really awkward. Like if the NPC was just presented as a guy who was always already out there with their thinking instead of like a modern day nerd, it would be more realistic. And that person would easily like, yeah, that is evil. I would, instead of having the nerd go like, yeah, I guess. Even though the mindset that was been presented with the NPC should actually reject the pitch being made at them. All right. So it's a very confusing situation for some guys to get themselves into. Don't do that to yourself. I hope you enjoyed the overview of Ars Magica. It's really hot here, so I'm happy to have gotten through that. It's overheated here. I hope I explained the magic well. The troop play is playing multiple characters, giving you options. I hope I explained how you should come at doing a campaign, not to focus on adventures in the typical way. That's really important. Presentation and setting is very important. Understanding things like there is a resistant and form of duels between magic users, very important. Dice rolling is a lot of just rolling versus some form of target type of thing. If you really are rolling against NPCs or people most of the time, you're rolling against the dice roll. There. Is there more to it in some detail? Yes, but on the general, no. Yeah, what I hope is to get you interested enough to want to go read it more. It's like, now you know this. That's all. That's my approach is to turn people onto something. Find those who would be into the thing, give them enough information to know that that would be the thing they'd be into or not into, and then leave you to go do the rest. I never give all the details. You know that, Black Rose. It's not even my job here. Like, I'm not here to read the book and tell you every rule. Though I've given you the general stuff, like explaining the experimentation with magic, how you should mentally, how you should approach these things. Because your first campaigns and the first time you're playing, most of what I told you, a lot of people won't figure out right away. They won't think this way. They won't guide their character. They'll give up opportunities. They'll have to play 2 or 3 times to realize, hey, I really got to start planning out to hit a bit more. Well, I'm telling you, do it now. If you're going to play it, do it now, because it is a wonderful experience to have the opportunity. Some people, really sadly with Ars Magica and some other games, they only figure out they should have done that after their opportunities are gone. It's like, yeah, I played in 2 campaigns. I start to think I should have really went they'll say things for the rest of their life. Like, the next time, I'm definitely going to do this and think long term. And there's not going to be a next time. Ars Magica is not D&D. A lot of groups that pick it up don't play it forever. Most don't play it forever. They play it a few times. This has been my experience in life, seeing guys actually try this out. And a lot of these ideas come to guys after their opportunities are gone. It is wisdom worth hearing. And the approach to doing the game. Look, I see a lot of guys out there with a lot of games run it in generic ways that go away from the designer intent. But they'll tell me later, I wish I knew what it was like, how the designers intended it to be. It's like, okay, you ran it twice. Yeah, it's like, maybe the next time I run it. But I'll hear that in 20 years later. You run it again? No. 30 years later, you run it again? No. So basically, you ran it in a generic way, and that was really your only opportunity to do it, right? Yeah. And you're probably not going to do it again, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, then some people out there can see how good my wisdom on this is. I get lucky because I try my damnedest to figure this stuff out during the first run, right? And I get lucky a lot of times because I know I've had experiences with games where a lot of guys don't have it, because I put a lot of hard thinking into what I'm missing out on in the first go. Because I know some games I might not run 50 times. And I look at what the designers intend too. Does it matter? What does that lead to me thinking? Right? And so I figure out what they want. I look at the wisdom of what they're pushing. And I expect with a lot of old school games, these guys sat down playing their made games a lot before you get them. So it's like, this is what they came to after a lot of gameplay. Why would they come to this? Why is their intentions this? And then wondering on that first run, am I skipping intentions? And how good is the game when you follow what the designer intends? That's why I love Cyberpunk. Not later editions, the early one. I love Cyberpunk because it went from, I see a lot of people run it in a generic way, and I personally didn't do that. I ran it as designer intended. When I did, it was fucking amazing. When I seen how a lot of people ran it, the criticism was, it's boring. And I'd watch them play it. I'd be like, yeah, what you're doing is boring. Yeah, you're right. But that's not the way the designer intended for you to run and play it. But I agree. There's no wrong way to play the game. Play the game any way you want. Right? But it doesn't mean you shouldn't know these things. It's good to get an education. But yes, I do leave it to you, Black Rose. You got the material, you say. You went out and got it already. You just didn't read through the stuff. Go read it. And now that you have a better understanding of how the magic works in combination, you're experimenting, you're point spending, and how this game goes, you got to find the right players, though. I don't know if your players would be up for this game. That's on you, dude. Black Rose, you know that better than I do. You know your players. I don't fucking know your players. And you have to really be upfront with this stuff. That's what another thing I would tell any game master, including Sam OG, who's getting this, if he's considering running it, man, let the guys know there's a lot of, okay, we're jumping to here, summarizing, jumping to here, summarizing, right? Oh, overestimate your my ability to read, but I appreciate the insight. Look, if you're considering running it, then I know you'll check out some of the shit, right? So if you're going to bother, I know you'll give it a go. That's where I do trust you a bit on there. But as far as you just casually reading it, yeah, this is probably the only time you're going to hear about Ars Magica. If you don't fucking run it, you don't fucking run it, at least you know. And I told you, you fucking lazy cunt. I love you, but I know the deal. This might be the only time you hear about it in any real sense. It's like you'll be 50 going, I'll ask you, I'll be like, so you ever fucking read it? No. Fucking asshole. Be lucky I did a stream on it. And that's going to be true, Black Rose, for a lot of people. Sadly, you think in our hobby, no, I don't say sadly, it's some shot at you, but it's in our hobby, you think more people would read. Most don't. And if you get upset at a few guys, if you go out there, it's like it will overwhelm you, and it won't change. That's why I tell some guys when they complain about things in the hobby, it's like you complain, but in 30 years it will still be this. It's like stupid questions. I get it. I get irritated with them too. The majority are going to ask stupid questions until the end of fucking time, baby. That's all you got to know. It's like you can get frustrated with it, or just understand you're going to get them until the end of time. The most you can do is have a talk with the people you personally game with. You are not going to be able to control the fucking hobby. Oh, the Savage Worlds and Mystera, those two streams. I knew I got you with the Mystera. You want to know what? As a gamer, once you, and this Bill will agree with me, most people skip over Mystera because they don't know much about it. But people like me and Bill would be able to tell you, once you know about it, you can't skip over it. I still say, I'll say it on this stream as I did before. Mystera, I believe, is the best Dungeons and Dragons setting that ever existed on the market. For gaming. For your pure gaming. For our gamers mindset, creative gamers, Mystera is the best on the market. The best. Period. End of story. There you go. So yes, good reason to get it. And your players will enjoy it. That's a safety. You never have to feel insecure about Mystera. I guarantee you that. That's never a waste of investment. You're a D&D guy, get Mystera. Your players will be like, holy shit, this is cool. This is awesome. Yes, it fucking is. Yes, it is. Savage Worlds, just another great game with a great generic rule set. So if you personally, Black Rose, here's what I would say, get Savage Worlds mainly. If you ever come up with an idea and you just want to play it and you don't care about like making a game, you can just make it with the, you know what I mean? You can go, guys, want to try this? And you have a rule set which you can pretty much dump in. Though it's good on its own. Deadlands, Savage Worlds and Deadlands in combo. Deadlands is a fucking beautiful game. I love it. Oh, the Traveler. You can't get... How can you ever get around Traveler, man? That's a sandbox magic system. I love Traveler. I absolutely love Traveler. I love Traveler. Traveler is one of the best tabletop role-playing games to ever exist. Period. End of story. I'm a fucking gaming machine, baby. This is what I told you, Black Rose. I hope you can always tell my enthusiasm. I don't care about the collecting books with dust falling on them. I love gaming. Period. I love gaming. Real, pure gaming. Put me in, baby. We're going to have a fucking awesome time. We're going to be enthused, get it done, have a great time. Oh, shit. I turned on all that stuff. I hope I've done that for a lot of other people, too. I hope a lot of other people take the time out to go through that playlist and check out the games I covered. Start a fucking revolution of old games. I cover Gangbusters, Top Secret, Bushido, Diglands, Traveler, everything, everything. Bushido. Your wife's gonna kill me and you. I love all of you. I really do. I love you. I love you a lot. Okay. It's like 8:30 my time. It's over 2 hours. Oh, it's the same. When I sit down with the GM, I leave the real world behind. I can go into the broken machine for 19 hours straight. Still got it. Proved that to myself on Wednesday. You want to know what you did? I'm not trying to brag, but I think I got you in the right direction, dude. You're already a natural there. But a guy like me, when I remind you of flow, where I remind you of these gimmicks, and you just go back to the table and do what I remind that you already have done in the past, you get back there right away. Not hard. I wish some of the new school guys understood the value of my content. I wish they knew. I wish they knew how good it is. My content is some of the best content. Most of the guys that try to copy me can't even word it right. And you know this, Black Rose, you know how many fucking old guys copy what I say on here. Let's just be real. They go on their streams and they try to say what I say, and they try to say it in some unpoetic way. Fucking bores me. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I know you can already do it. That's why I'm giving you compliments. Just a good reminder. Good reminder, a little refresher. I won't get you there so you don't forget. Okay, dude. I love you. I'll let you say goodnight. I love you. I'm taking off. Pretty much. That's it. I've already announced everything I'm doing in other streams. People can check that out if they want. They can.